I know, so big. I don't know how to make it or do it.
You can just minimize.
Yes, right here.
Yeah.
Oh, no, just kidding.
No,
I can just make it small. But then I can't see her screen. Yeah, she doesn't have a presentation. So I just need to show her.
You're right, and name change. Videos permanent. All right, so y'all ready? Okay, so I'm Elizabeth Davis with a great introduction. This morning has been a morning. I ran out of gas on Main Street. Sheriff helped me out, and then I made it about 2 blocks, and there's an older lady on the ground. So I stopped there and waited for the ambulance, so hence I was a little extra late. I don't know if you heard the ambulances. Yes, my wonderful daughter was very patient in the car while we dealt with it. But so today we're talking about vicarious trauma in here. Right? Run out of gas downtown Raleigh, run across, bleeding old lady that's crying. It's perfect, right? But that's how it is as someone in the helping field, right? You just never know what you're gonna get. But it also speaks to my dedication to show up, because either of those would have been a really good qualifier for so yeah, vicarious trauma. I'm sorry it's not on here. Also, I did not have internet the last couple of days, so don't know what's going on there. So definition for vicarious trauma is basically negative changes in the person's view of self, others, and the world from repeated empathetic engagement with a person's trauma-related thoughts, memories, and emotions. Now, typically, when you look at that definition, it's going to talk about clinicians and clients, right? I adjusted it because y'all aren't clinicians for the most part. I do believe that vicarious trauma is a possibility for those that aren't clinicians, though. And then it's also an ongoing process of change over time that results from witnessing or hearing about other people's pain and need, which is something you all hear about, right? You witness it. So even though you're not a clinician per se, people are opening up to you. They're sharing their stories. You're seeing their stories. All right, so common reactions related to vicarious trauma. So the physical side, feeling on edge, difficulty sleeping, feeling tired and or sick. This is not so you can diagnose yourself, right? That's not what this is. Just a heads up, look at the red flags. So the emotional reactions, feeling sad or anxious, angry, irritable, lonely, unsupported, or unsafe. Cognitive would be difficulty concentrating or making decisions. Memory problems, disturbing imagery, nightmares, and zoning out. Now, all of those, most of these in general kind of fall under the depression too, right? Some of them under anxiety. That's why I say don't try and diagnose yourself, okay? Behavioral, social withdrawal, drinking or smoking more, changing in eating patterns and overprotectiveness. So if you start being that helicopter parent or helicopter kid to your parents or things like that, maybe look into that a little deeper. Relational side, expecting the worst of others. So if you start seeing yourself as more of a pessimistic type person related to other people, becoming judgmental. So we're all a little judgy, right? That's something we work on. But when you find yourself being more judgmental, okay? Relationship problems. Okay, we all have relationship problems at some time in life. When it is associated with those other things, right? It's a combination. That's where you start looking at it more. And loss of friends. So when you start separating yourself from friends or not liking so much what they're doing, if it's a 20-year-old friend and all of a sudden you don't like their behavior, maybe look at your behavior too, okay? And spiritual, so cynicism, discouragement, loss of faith, an attitude of why bother. So again, those are all different aspects you can look at to see if maybe this is something that's bothering you. It is not to diagnose yourself because they do fall under a lot of the criterion for other diagnoses as well. All right, similar concepts, because vicarious trauma is used, I think, less commonly than like secondary trauma. but it's very similar, or burnout, right? Burnout, we all hear that one spread. Compassion fatigue, have y'all heard of that? So it's a similar concept, right? It's just the criteria to meet that, let's say, diagnosis is a little different. So with burnout, it's defined as a persistent state of exhaustion, cynicism, and inefficacy as a result of work-related stress. So it often presents as frequent absenteeism, chronic tardiness, and underperformance at work. So when you find yourself not wanting to go to work or wanting to leave a little early because you're just kind of done with it, that's where we're looking at burnout. Compassion fatigue, it's originally referred to as secondary traumatic stress syndrome. That comes with bad connotation though, because PTSD, people think crazy if you have PTSD. So compassion fatigue is more the social norm now. It's defined as an empathetic strain and general exhaustion resulting from caring for people in distress. So that's a lot of what I would expect some of you are experiencing is that compassion fatigue. So it is very draining when you're taking care of other people, caring about other people, and then having to go home and take care of yourself and your family. This one does not require any cumulative secondary trauma exposure, right? You don't have to have that trauma to have compassion fatigue because it's the act of caring for other people that's wearing you out. And it's not associated with any cognitive disruption. So your brain's not really changing with that one. And then why do we have to deal with this whole vicarious trauma thing? Things related. Basically, it's as a result of validating or the empathy in validating another's suffering. When we experience that empathy, we're kind of putting ourselves in their shoes a little bit. We're experiencing what they're experiencing, and that's what gets us, okay? And it's also found, so the boss ladies, right, or gentlemen, high caseloads of trauma victims is shown to increase your symptoms, your risk of symptoms. So if you find that you keep getting assigned these really high trauma cases, maybe speak up because maybe someone's not noticing or thinking you're doing just great. And that could be a way to take care of yourself, not down in anybody. Treatment options. So therapy. Therapy is really hard to get into right now. Therapy is a good option though. Self-care. We're going to talk a little bit about some self-care today and prevention. So the prevention is partly self-care, right? It's also looking at the caseload. It's looking at your abilities, setting those boundaries, things like that. And then how to address vicarious trauma. So mindfulness. I love mindfulness. Some of you have learned I love mindfulness. It is a fantastic tool to have in your belt. It helps with all life issues, especially this. Increased sleep. The more sleep you get, the better you're functioning, the less outside forces are going to affect you. Healthy eating, same thing as the healthy sleep cycles, right? You need to be putting good stuff into your body for your body to work appropriately or at its optimum. Developing boundaries, that's at work and at home and with yourself, right? So the boundaries is where you set these like rules you're going to follow. You do it with your kids. You got to do it with your other people and yourself. Accountability partner, those are great. That way, if you kind of are not the best at doing the boundaries, an accountability partner can help you with that. Also with the mindfulness activities or the self-care activities, that accountability partner can help with that. Doesn't have to be just a gym partner. It could be, hey, did you take the bath today? Great, anything. And then most importantly, slow down and enjoy your life, right? Because if you get so caught up in everyone else's and you're not taking care of yourself and slowing down and enjoying, you're going to have more of an impact on your mental health. Resources. There are a ton of resources for y'all here in New Albany. Therapy, okay, that's hard, right? Like getting into individual therapy right now is really hard. Most of your volunteers, right? So if you or your spouse or someone that you can tap into has an EAP program, that is generally the easiest right now to get into because your company has that contract they're going to get you in, right? It's going to be a short-term therapy, but it's something. Otherwise, getting into individual therapy is pretty difficult. Yes, ma'am. EAP. Employee assistant program. I didn't know there was going to be a test. I'm sorry. So your EAP is basically your company is contracted with a mental health provider. They're gonna provide you, generally it's 5 sessions or so. It could be you, generally it could be a family member. So let's say your wife or your husband or your kid is having some issues, they might be able to see them. Usually medication's not gonna be involved because it's such a short stint that they might be able to refer you to someone that they have contact with. And then they'll provide you with, it could be marriage counseling, individual therapy, family therapy. There's a lot of different, like Magellan is one of the EAP providers around here. They do financial counseling, they help you find childcare, they do all sorts of stuff. Right, so your EAP is something to really tap into for some resources, and they're free. Wellness apps are great. Sometimes your employer will actually pay for a wellness app too. If they're not, you can talk to them about doing it because it is really good for your mental health, which in turn increases productivity at work and retention at work and all that other stuff. Friends and family are a really good resource, right? Because you can talk to them. Don't unload everything because that's not necessarily their job, but they are there to support you, right? And recognize when you're having trouble. And you can do the same for them, right? Support system. Local treatment centers, there's a ton. Like I said, I hate to be a negative Nancy on that one. It's really hard to get into individual therapy. So if you see a need, go ahead and get yourself on that list. All of them, right? All of them. It doesn't hurt, right? Let's say you do LiveSpring and personal counseling services and find another one, sign up for them all, see who gets in first. They don't look at each other. They don't know you're on everyone's wait list. And then YouTube, right? YouTube has an amazing plethora of self-care app or videos you can watch. We're actually going to use YouTube to practice today. Okay, so YouTube is free, right? If you don't know how to use it, your kid or grandkid can show you. Yeah, my daughter helps me out with YouTube a lot. You saw her. So YouTube is a really good resource. Even just looking online at different information. So if you want to read some articles or anything like that, just look at what the writer, they're credentialing. So if it's a .com, it's not as potentially accurate. But if it's one of those mental health, positive psychology, Psychology Times, things like that, NAMI, SAMHSA, those are really great. Government sites tend to be really good. Just look at the dot whatever. Okay, .coms are the least reliable. Okay, Good Therapy though has some good stuff too. I mean, you can Google it, you can find some good stuff. Don't diagnose yourself with it. Okay, that's where you get ugly. All right, so today we are going to practice. I figured learning skills is more important than me standing up here and putting you to sleep. So we're going to potentially put somebody to sleep practicing. Okay. So if you need coffee, go ahead and take some drinks. And then we're going to separate into groups. If 2 of you make each other laugh too much, don't sit with that one. So it's going to be 2 groups. And we're going to go through. Do you have any questions on this before we start on that? Because you're going to relax, you might forget what's going on. Any questions? Any need help finding resources? Anything? Okay. All right, so how do you want to do the 2 groups? Because you all just totally alienated everybody. Call it out, Courtney.
Well, I'm on the move. Where do you want to do that? How do you want to do 2 groups? Want to all move together? Or?
Yeah, 2 groups in a circle would be ideal.
So, all right. I'm gonna move forward. I'm out.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Should we stand or take our chairs?
Oh, and I'm sorry, this is Tracy Skaggs. She is fabulous. She was my intern and now she is on her own. I don't know, doing amazing things. So she's gonna help do one of the groups for me. So that way it wasn't just everyone in one group, okay?
Us to stand or take our chairs.
Cheers.
Take our chairs.
And I'm sorry.
It's great to be here.
want to do that one? 'Cause Courtney needs to learn that other people are just as good as me.
Okay, we need some people over here.
We need people over there.
Do you need one more over there, or do you guys? What do you think?
Whatever. Y'all in the bottom. I just want to be able to have Yeah, that's perfect. So, okay, so I'm really excited. I really love Okay. For those who are not. Okay, so, we are, there's gonna be 4 activities. So with me. So one of the senses, right? We don't see that image and then
So you can find videos on YouTube, and we're gonna do one today. I'm gonna have you all listen to that, and you're gonna follow what the voices say. It's gonna take you through an imagery, like today, we're gonna be in the forest, okay? But these are techniques that you can use without YouTube. So basically, what you can do is say if you were in a home, and you're experiencing these anxieties, these emotions, and you need to regulate yourself, all you need to do is take yourself to a place in your memory where you have a sense of peace, a sense of happiness, whether that be at the beach, whether that be, going hiking, whatever it is. Take yourself there where you can actually hear the waves, you can smell the song. Because by doing that, taking yourself back in that moment, you're able to bring back that same peace and that same sensation that you had on that day. So that's a way for you to regulate with the use of guided imagery. So today we're going to, let me see on this one.
Dreams is a powerful relaxation
Okay, so 5 seconds.
in this exercise. You will become a beautiful, tranquil forest. As your imagination is guided through various sensory suggestions, your body and mind will respond as though what you are imagining is
And you
real.
all hear it. Just kind of close your eyes and like listen.
Or stressed, this will help shift your mood to one of peace and relaxation. So begin by finding a comfortable place to relax. And make sure you're placing yourself into a nice, comfortable position, whether sitting or lying down on a bed, couch, or the floor. And when you're ready, close your eyes.
While you're doing it, trying to regulate your breaths too.
Right. Deep into the belly. Hold the breath for a brief moment. And release the breath. Once again, nice deep breath in.
Yeah, so we don't do that. Yeah, different colors.
And now release. As you release the breath, let go of any tension, surrendering the weight of your body onto the surface that you're lying on. One last time, deep breath in, hold, and now exhale. Feel yourself beginning to relax. and let go. Now imagine you're walking along a path in the forest on a bright, sunny autumn morning. The path is soft underneath your shoes. You can hear each of your footsteps against the forest floor, where there are fallen leaves, pine needles, twigs, and moss. As you walk along the path, you can feel a gentle, cool breeze caressing your cheeks. You hear the birds singing and the leaves of the trees as they rustle in the wind. As you continue to walk, you feel relaxed and your mind clears more and more with each step you take. The fresh air is revitalizing as you take a nice deep breath in and as you continue to walk through the forest. You notice the tall trees around you. The red and golden leaves look magnificent. And you stop for a moment to take in this beautiful scenery around you. You notice a red leaf falling from a tree as it dances and twirls in the air before slowly fluttering down to rest along with the others. In the distance, you hear the babbling of a stream. As you look ahead, you notice the sun dabbling through the trees, and you see the sun reflection on the gurgling stream that runs along the edge of the forest. You continue to tread carefully into the forest, over the crackling red leaves, and the broken twigs and pine cones that are scattered across the ground.
So with that, I want to ask you all, because I know there's other talk in the background. How many of you all experienced yourself coming outside of the guided imagery and catching yourself listening to what's going on in the background? That's life. That's everyday life when we're involved and we're trying to. And so the thing with mindfulness and using this exercise is to recognize that these things happen to us in everyday life. And yes, we're going to get distracted, but you have control of your brain to where you can bring yourself back into the moment. You get lost in the future, you get lost in the past. What we want to do is use this, acknowledge what's going on, but don't stay there. Bring yourself back into where you're at in this moment. Because being outside somewhere else is where it adds to our additional stress. Our thoughts get away from us. We get away from where we're at right now, here and there. So using the guided imagery, it not only helps you with your anxiety, depression, but it can also help you, like I said, refocus and reset, because you are acknowledging what's going on around you, but you're able to bring yourself back into where you're at in this moment. So you're fully able to be present with your families and not in whatever their stressful situation is, taking it to the next extreme. We want to stay right here in the here and now. It also helps you with your physical health. It can improve your heart rate, your blood pressure. It can help reduce your pain levels, and it can also relieve your headaches. because a lot of times our headaches are stress. So if we're able to calm ourselves and get ourselves back in this moment, we're able to release that. Okay. It's also helpful in preparing for events or preparing yourself when you're ready. If you know you're going into a household that is a stressful situation, it's chaotic, there are, some really ugly things going on. You can prepare yourself for that by doing this kind of imagery before you even go in, because you're already bringing yourself to a state of peace, a state of calmness. Because a lot of times when we think about the household that we're going in, we already start feeling these emotions. We're having these expectations that are going in. Again, we want to stay in the here and now, not in where our mind is taking us. So this is a thing that you're able to do if you're feeling that anxiety coming on as you're going into these households. It does utilize the brain, but it has a powerful effect, like I said, on the rest of our body, because our brain, when it gets overly excited, then our body becomes overly excited. We become tense. We start that rapid breathing. The stress takes on, like I said, the headaches. And so our mind is what is causing that. So when we calm our mind, we're able to calm our body at the same time. So like I said, you can do this without having the use of these videos, just by remembering. Those are really the most powerful, because you are able to go back into that sensation. And so you can use these up at nighttime. If it's been a very stressful day and you're trying to lay down, turn on one of these videos when you're in your room quietly and just take 10 minutes to yourself, just to release everything, because debriefing from what happened from that day is going to be the best for your physical, mental, and emotional health. All it takes, like I said, is a quiet, distractive spot where you can sit down, lie down. However, this is going to best relax you. If you're very tense, you might want to find a way you can lay down so that you're able to relax your body. Because a lot of times, if we can't relax the body, then our mind keeps going. It's a continuous speed thing. So basically, what it is you taking a mental vacation. And that's what we all need a lot of times, not just a physical vacation, but just to be able to mentally escape from what you all experience on a daily basis. Okay? Are there any questions to that? Let's see. I think she was wanting to switch instead of you all spending time with me for the whole time. Rotate back that way. You're getting a piece of what she's doing, and then they'll come over here because we're planning on giving you all a total of 4 different techniques that you can utilize. Okay, because like I said, mindfulness is being able to stay present in that moment. Is not only best for you, but it's best for your families too. Okay. Are you still going over there?
Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Any questions on her part, guys? Ladies? Men? Fantasy plan. Man. All right, any questions on this? All right, I think it'll be easier for us to swap.
Yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
Yeah.
Circle.
The musical chairs, not quite yet.
You left me a seat though, so thank you. They didn't do that.
There you go.
All right, how are y'all doing?
So a lot of you are new faces for me, which is fabulous.
It's okay, don't worry.
The video will
Oh,
follow you.
Lord.
It followed you.
Are you gonna edit it at least?
We will edit, yes, we can edit some stuff if we need to.
I hate videos. Have any of you seen my video on the Housing Authority Facebook?
We will be looking it up now.
Yeah. Right before our next therapy session.
Yes. Is that our next such intersection?
No, I don't like videos. So which one did she do with you?
Guided imagery.
Do you love it?
Yeah.
That's it. Which one did she do? Isn't it
Amazing.
response.
No, because I kept looking for spiders and spider webs. and I was literally knocking them down.
So you needed a beach.
I need a beach, yeah.
I've got a waterfall one that's amazing. So
Because when you see something.
you have an option to start, right? Because you just got relaxed. So I can do another relaxing one, or we can talk about mindfulness using the five senses first.
Your emotions begin to follow.
I think it would be real.
Yeah, let's go with the five
Okay,
senses.
five senses. So I love mindfulness, right? Because it keeps you in the moment, it gets you a little centered, resets you a little, and it slows your life down a little. It frees up time that you don't realize, just because you're actually experiencing things, so it doesn't feel so rushed. It's not actually taking more time. It just feels like it's. Does that make sense? So laundry is one that I like to use, or dishes. So we'll start with laundry though. Okay, so what are ways you can utilize your five senses while doing laundry, like in both of them?
So.
I do it when I'm folding clothes, sitting there and I'm thinking about the things that are going on in my day or coming up, focusing on that.
That is exactly the opposite of what we're doing.
Well, then, I guess I've been doing that. No, for me, that's very relaxed.
And it can be. This one is getting you in the here and now and outside of what else is going
Oh,
on. Okay.
So to focus on the folding.
Oh,
you
just,
don't
oh,
think about.
okay.
Right.
Focus on folding.
But I won't like to
Thank
do
you.
it then.
Yes, the towels.
If the towels are not warm, it's not
I know, I like to.
fun. You got it, yeah.
I put them on my shoulder.
Okay, well, the towels being warm, that's a feeling, right?
Yeah.
So that's
They
touch.
smell.
That's
Yes.
Yes.
Another one
The
is
the smells of either like softener or
So
detergent,
when you're
the
doing
perfume when you're
this,
putting it in, if you wear perfume, or the nasty sock smell for the kids. Like, there's a lot of smells, right? And it doesn't have to be good, so trying to get in the moment, right? So focusing on those smells. So what are some sight, vision that you can use to do?
Stain. Shop those stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Separated by color.
You're more on the activity, we're more on the mental.
So sight is not an activity.
Looking, what are you seeing?
I see a lot.
No, and that's where it's us, you're seeing a thing, right? So, okay, yeah, this is.
These are all one.
Okay.
Who knows?
It might be Jesus.
Okay, read. Oh, I thought it was like a napkin, like a fabric, but okay, so, what do you see?
So thinking about these things as you agree, these are your sensations.
Yeah, you see,
Wrinkles.
and that's what I'm talking about, you're noticing, okay, you're not doing, you're noticing, okay, so, yeah, there's some wrinkles, we're not judging, right, we're just noticing there's some wrinkles, there's a lot of blue V's that are like kind of a bluish color, oh, there's some shells embossed on it, right, we're noticing, okay, and then what might I be feeling with this? Mhm. Feeling soft.
Little smell, a little smell out there.
I've got gas in my dirt and blood, so we're good.
What's one more?
You can feel the embossed little shells. You can feel the wrinkles. You can, and there's a lot to it. You can feel how it's pretty light, it's pliable. You're noticing, okay? For smell, what might I smell? Okay, or drink, if there's a sweet drink attached to it. Paper has a smell to it, right? If she had a perfume or a scented chapstick, might smell that. Taste, I'm not tasting, right? And we don't need to, okay, we don't need to taste everything, we don't need to lick the walls or anything like that.
Like my kindergarten.
Right? We can imagine what paper tastes like if you want to invoke that sense, but we don't need to taste it. But that's where we're going, okay? We can do it with dishes. All right, so for dishes without putting yourself through more work, what are some of those senses we're gonna invoke in doing the dishes?
This is gonna make you aware
Listening to the water.
around your body.
Mhm. And the different sounds it has, if it's hit the pan versus glass versus silverware.
Smelling the dish up.
Yeah, smelling the dish soap.
and maybe some bad food, right? Or your garbage disposals, or, I mean, there's sense to it.
Feeling the heaviness of the plates.
Yes, there's different weights, silverware versus the bubbles only versus plates versus a cup of water. A lot of different.
The bumpiness of the dry ketchup.
Yeah, and we're noticing that instead of, oh, this is ketchup, I have to get off, right? Like, oh, this is a really rubbery texture to it, right? That's what dry ketchup has. It's a rubbery texture that's pretty, and that's where you're going with it. Not the active, like, extra work. Just, you're already doing the work. We're just gonna notice what that work is. Does that make sense?
Instead of thinking like my kids should have rinsed this, instead of leaving it to get caked on, and now I'm gonna have to go and talk to them about it afterwards. We don't do that.
No, we're focusing on the rubbery.
I've been doing this wrong my whole life. Not yet.
We're focusing on that rubberiness, okay?
OCD.
So it's the,
Yeah.
we're not here to diagnose. But yeah, it's really focusing in on the different senses and not the act, okay? If you're looking at trees outside, okay, so I love, you can hear the breeze going through the leaves, you can see the different textures in the leaves and on the bark, you can smell it. In most cases, if you want to pick a little flower and put it in your mouth, most of those flowers you can. I mean, make sure you can. I'm not telling you to eat them, but there's so many different ways driving, right? Most of us do some mindless driving. You end up somewhere you don't remember, or you see a barn you've never seen for 10 years that you've driven by it and a zombie hero burn. That's because we're not paying attention to what's around us. So the purpose is to pay attention to what's around us, get in those moments and out of, what do I have to do next week? What do I have this later?
Get out of my head.
Yeah. That's because you're not enjoying, you're not in the moment when you're thinking about your to-do list. Does that make sense? So you're still gonna be folding the laundry's gonna take just as long to fold. You're gonna have a mental health moment doing that, right? That's self-care. Okay, and the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the better your brain functions. The more you can handle, the stressed you are. It's a reference effect. Does that make sense? Are you gonna try it?
I'll try, but I just like to do laundry. I mean, it just gets me out of everything. Just sits there.
We're all doing our laundry tomorrow.
Yeah.
I get that all the time.
Well, for you, it might not be to practice doing laundry while you're doing laundry. It might be to practice doing something else and then carry it over to other aspects of your life, like in court, right? You can practice this in court when you're starting to get a little stressed out. Start noticing something. Pick something small. Don't pick the whole courthouse. You could pick, like, if you sit there, okay, I'm seeing a lot of texture on his shirt. It looks soft and fuzzy. His shoes have a little dirt on the bottom, right? We're not judging. We're not judging. We're just noticing.
Anybody starts to lick them, you'll.
Right? But you can notice, like, start looking at the seams in his shoes and the rivets in his shoes. Like, you're really noticing things that you just overlooked. Perfect.
Do you have a hole in one?
So that's the goal with that, and that can help get you out of all those racing thoughts and in the moment. Okay, so the more you practice at home, the easier it is to utilize it in those stressful moments. Does that make sense? Is there anywhere you guys can picture yourself practicing this?
Not in our office.
We have white noise machines now.
There's a whiteboard above your there's two whiteboards that have texture and lettering and words. We went over this.
Must have missed that section.
That you can look at and get in that moment instead of the chaos that's ensuing.
It's always our office.
Okay, and
That's
then
the best place for you to practice.
it is.
Escaping the chaos.
Yes, it is. I start implementing start of the day and end of the day or something.
Yes, ma'am.
There, anywhere you're at, you can utilize this. Okay, and it's not something anyone's gonna notice you're doing. Let's say you don't like grocery shopping. Okay, it gives you anxiety. You can start noticing the colors in the aisles. You can notice the different textures in the aisles. You can feel the ground behind underneath your feet. You can feel the little Sometimes the tile, if it's tile, has a little lift. Start noticing that. Start noticing how your toes feel in your shoes. No one is gonna know you're doing this, okay? It's one of those like perfect practice type activities you can do to get yourself out of that stress and into those moments. Because usually that stress isn't something that's happening like this second, right? It's what you're picturing is gonna happen. It's what you think just happened, but like that very second is not what you're stressing about, right? Fair enough? Okay. Any questions on that? No? One of you all is good at mindfulness. She's not here.
Good at what?
No, it was you. Uh-oh, because you're the behavioral person.
Oh,
So if you need help with it,
don't call me.
she's got some behavioral experience.
And behaviors, and we will send her number to you.
Can we stop that? Does it pause?
Yeah. Let's just end it and we can restart it.
No.